Welcome to the Caregiving Podcast. I'm Inga.
And I'm Julie.
And long story short, we have Caregiving. We are two momtrepreneurs who have built an in-home care business from the ground up, guided every step of the way by God's care and fueled by agape love. Almost 14 years later, we felt called to create this podcast as a resource for families with caregiving needs. Whether you care for a family member or are looking for advice on professional caregiving, we want this to be a platform to support you.
Each week, we will come to you with encouraging stories of families who have found the right balance for their loved ones, tips for how to care for them and you, and much more. We hope you continue to join us each week as we share in this exciting new journey together.
Hello, sunshines, and hello, Julie.
You did it to me again.
I know.
Oh, Lord
you were
Almighty.
Piddle farting around, weren't you?
I don't
Maybe
know.
that's the grandma saying.
Piddle fart?
Yeah, piddle fart.
Or is it
Or
diddle
piddle
fart?
dink, piddle dink, puddle dunk, diddle fart. I don't know. All terms that I've heard and probably been called as a child and probably called my children. Piddle dinking around.
Yes. Well, hello, Inga.
How are you?
Good.
Same.
Oh,
All right.
goodness.
So we came up with this. I don't even know how we stumbled across it, but somebody that we were talking to brought up the term health literacy.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to be talking about with people today,
Yeah.
right? Health literacy. And as we go into that, I would like to know, how knowledgeable are you and how comfortable do you feel about you and your family's health?
Well, when somebody said health literacy to me, I was like, what? That's great words.
Yes.
Oh, my word. So good. And then as I researched it, it's like been a thing for a zillion years, but I never
Not new.
never heard about it. And so I thought, we need to talk about this. And so when you're asking me how comfortable and knowledgeable I am about my things, I think I'm pretty good. I mean, thank the Lord, I and my family, the immediate family, are actually quite healthy.
Yeah.
Even when we were going through dad's stuff, you would just, every time there was a different system that was affected with whatever, mother took the time to just stop and researched it.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do about this?
Yeah.
And so I think that's Cheryl is being very health literacy.
Health literate. Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
I literate about her health.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, there. So I think I'm good, knock on wood, until you come up with something that isn't new. Yeah.
Well, I did something today, and I didn't even think about the fact that we were doing this health literacy podcast, but I did actually call my mom and I said, okay, I need to get out my calendar and I need to write down all of your appointments and all of grandma's appointments.
Oh, wow.
Because we talk about them, and I know that things are upcoming, but I just can't seem to commit the dates and the times into my memory, so I need to write them down so I know when to follow up on those. And yeah, she got me lined out all the way through August.
Oh, my word.
Yeah,
that
her
was
and
a big
grandma.
deal. Now I suppose I have to call Cheryl.
You better get on that.
Gotta keep up with Inga and Jean.
Yes. Well, and I was going to say, actually, something that I really think is kind of an interesting thing and it was a thoughtful decision. So my mom was recently diagnosed with an autoimmune, and she essentially said, you know what, I'm going to follow what the doctor tells me. I'm going to take the medication. I'm going to do what they say, but I'm not going to go looking for a lot of information because I don't want to scare myself about it.
True.
I don't want to, I'm going to go with how I feel, and I'm going to see my doctor regularly, and I'm going to take the medicine, and I'm going to do what I'm supposed to, but I'm not going to just go dredging up every last thing there is to know about this because I just don't want to be scared about it.
Huh. And that's true. I'm glad you brought that up, because when it comes to your health literacy, what is it? MD.com or all these things. WebMD.
Yes.
Oh my word. You can scare yourself sick.
Yes. And if you look at like side effects of medication and you really can. I mean, and I think
I have that and I have that and I have that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I think she's making a very informed decision
I
because
love that.
she is working with her doctor and she is following what's being recommended. And, if something changes she's going to talk to her doctor. And, but I thought it was very thoughtful to say, you know what, I'm not going to make myself crazy over it.
Wow.
I can't change it. So I just need to, follow the doctor's orders, and that's how we're going to approach it.
I love that.
Now, that is not that may not be for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain situations that I feel like you probably do need to be more informed, but in this particular case, that's the approach, and I support it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Good job, Grandma Jean.
I know. She's really smart.
Yeah. There is a time, though, when you have to go the opposite. When Callie was in junior high and really got very sick, we had to actually advocate for ourselves and try to figure out what was going on with her. And, I had physicians that were like, well, do you think it's this? And I was incredibly... I did not like that.
Yes.
But basically we went through a whole session of whatever it was and with no diagnosis. And that was frustrating.
Yes. And I remember that because it was very real what was happening with her and with her stomach. And, you had to be your own advocate and you had to do the research. And so I see that side of things as well.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you do have to be.
But Grandma Jean is getting what she needs from her physician, and he's supporting her, and she feels confident with him.
Yeah, they
That's
finally
awesome.
figured out, because this has kind of been a lifetime of different things that have all added up.
Yeah.
And then, it all kind of comes together, and you're like, oh, yeah, yep, that makes sense.
Oh, my goodness.
Everything makes sense. So,
very cool.
So there's two very significant sides of how things can come together.
Yeah.
Either you go out and figure it out on your own.
Hopefully not often do you have to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I, my family, my husband and the girls, we're all pretty healthy too. So, and the parts of us that aren't healthy, we know what they are and we know how to work with them. So I feel pretty confident.
We're pretty blessed, aren't we?
We are very blessed. Very, very blessed. Yeah. So you brought a verse to us, Proverbs 18, chapter 18, verse 15. An intelligent heart acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge.
Yeah. Very short and sweet, but truly when we're talking about literacy, that, AKA knowledge.
Yes.
So I just thought, there you go. You need to be seeking that out.
Absolutely. I love it. So what'd you bring to us for an uplifting story, Julie?
Well, how to find happiness in the second half of life. It's never too early or too late to embark on the road of fulfillment. I love that because this person, it was a social scientist that said that actually they are finding that people that are in the second half of their life are actually much more content and happy. And why is that? Because it grows from a deep personal work and careful intention. So people do need to stop at some point in their life and really decide what's going to make them happy.
Yeah.
Right? It said fluid intention. So there's two types of intelligence based on this study. There's fluid intelligence is our problem-solving skills and abilities. That's our ability to think creatively and figure complex things out. And there's a crystallized intelligence, which might be described as wisdom. Oh, yeah. The library of knowledge and experiences that we've had that are compiled in our brain from what we've lived. So the crystallized intelligence increases.
I have mashed potatoes in my brain. I am fried. No crystals now.
No crystals.
No wisdom, but carry on.
Crystallized intelligence increases in the second half of life. And though we can and should keep our fluid intelligence skills as sharp as possible, we are more likely to be happy when we feel confident in the gifts of our accumulated wisdom. When I was reading this, all I could think about is, boy, I'd like to be a high school girl now.
10-4, Eleanor.
Go in there and just say, boom.
Yeah.
This is how it's going to be. No game plan. I don't care what you think about me. There's comfort in being this.
Every year older, I just feel like there's just a maturity and more confidence and more understanding and truly more wisdom.
Absolutely. And so it says, as we get older, we free ourselves to experience greater happiness when we let go of the ideas that we will be the same with the same strengths, interests, and priorities throughout our lives. Don't accept that because it's going to change. And then it said that it's never too early or too late to invest. So what they say is, hopefully by your 25s, 35s, and 45s, you're actually kind of figuring out where you want to be intentional about some thoughts that make you happy. But you can still do that when you're 75 and 85. So you might find that even by taking the time to think about what intention you want to set for the years ahead, you feel a surge of optimism that can begin to steer you in a happier direction.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it was a little out there because we're talking about crystals and what was the other one? Fluid
And crystals. So I brought a story, Mindset Matters is what I'm calling it. And this actually came off of TikTok from John Inspires. But it's a video of Trevor Moed telling a story. And basically it goes like this. So it starts out with, it's a young man who is failing out of high school. He's in his junior year of school. He's struggling. He's raised by a single mother out in the Midwest, and he's failing. He's bombing. It's going terrible. But he makes a promise to his mom that he would take his SATs. So he goes ahead and takes the test. It would be May of his junior year. He really does not expect anything, honestly. He's bombing out, failing school. Ultimately, he's going through the motions because he made a promise to his mom, so takes the test. Well, he ends up getting a score of 1480 out of 1600 on his SAT test. And anybody that knows anything about an SAT test, I'm sure knows that that's pretty commendable. So he gets the score, tells his mother. The mother, doing what any mother would do, essentially, knowing her kid in the situation, says, "Did you cheat?" To which he is like, "Dude, swear to God, I tried. I tried to cheat. I couldn't cheat. There was no way to cheat on this test. So no, I didn't cheat. The score is my score. That is what I got." So he's stunned, but he, for the first time, he starts to realize, like, dude, I'm smart. I'm smart. So he's going to go into his senior year and he's like, I'm gonna start going to class. I'm gonna do the thing, right?
Wow.
So he starts showing up, and he stops hanging out with the people that he was hanging out with when he was ditching school, and essentially, the teachers start to see him going to class, and they are like, "Did we just miss this kid? How did we miss this kid?" You know, because he's really starting to make a presence of himself. So the teachers see him and they start to treat him differently. And he ends up graduating from high school. He goes on to a community college. He eventually goes on to Wichita State and then to an Ivy League, and comes out and becomes this just massively successful magazine entrepreneur.
Wow.
Okay. So basically, the thought was that, okay, well, he's always been smart. He just needed the test to know that he was smart, right? But he just needed that to unlock it. Well, here's the thing. The story actually hasn't even started yet. The story starts 12 years later. So 12 years later, this guy is super, super successful. He gets this letter in the mail from Princeton, New Jersey. He waits a day before he opens it. His wife's like, "Hey, are you going to open that?" And he's like, "Yeah, didn't really think anything of it." But he goes ahead and he opens it. And basically, the letter tells him that periodically the SAT board, they'll review their test taking like policies and procedures. And the year that he got his score of 1480, he was one of 13 people who was sent the wrong SAT score.
Oh, my word.
His actual score was 740.
Oh, my word.
He says he says that people think that his whole life changed when he got the 1480, but he said really his whole life changed when he started acting like a 1480.
Oh, my word.
Yep, because he said, what would a 1480 do? A 1480 would show up. A 1480 would go to class. So essentially, he basically says, my behavior changed when I started to believe that I was a 1480, and that changed everything for me. Oh, wow. Isn't that crazy?
So cool.
Yeah, I love that story. So then I came across this, I guess an excerpt, I guess you could say, and it comes from The Power of Positive Leadership. And this is what it says. No matter what anyone says, just show up and do the work. If they praise you, show up and do the work. If they criticize you, show up and do the work. If no one even notices you, just show up and do the work. Just keep showing up, doing the work, and leading the way. Lead with passion, fuel up with optimism, have faith, power up with love, maintain hope, be stubborn, fight the good fight, refuse to give up, ignore the critics, believe in the impossible, show up. Do the work, you'll be glad you did. True grit leads to true success.
Holy cow.
Did we need that today?
Oh, so good.
Yeah. Anyway.
Wow.
So I just thought that was incredible because here's this kid and, he doesn't believe in himself and he doesn't think that he thinks he's a 740 and somehow he gets told that he's a 1480. And so his entire behavior changes.
Isn't that awesome?
And it changed the complete trajectory of his life.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Love that so much.
Believe and act as though you're a 1480.
And show up.
And show up. All right. Health literacy.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. What is it?
Okay. So health literacy, simply put, it's how we receive, interpret, and act on health information. So basically, examples of how health literacy skills apply to real world situations. So a person may not understand essential things such as how and when to take a prescription medication, how to know when it's appropriate to go to the emergency rather than a primary care doctor, or how to explain signs and symptoms they are experiencing. So the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, they officially define health literacy as the ability to obtain, communicate, process, and understand basic health information and services. So just like reading literacy gives you skills to understand and use written information, health literacy refers to the skills that you need to be able to understand and make good decisions about your health.
Wow. So, however, these skills aren't just important on an individual level. Parents, caregivers, and many others are tasked with medical decision making that goes beyond their own personal skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the importance of health literacy, basically everyone needs these skills to successfully find and access care, to prevent certain health conditions, and to effectively manage those that occur, communicate their needs, understand their choices, and make informed decisions. How many times, Julie, do we see that a patient of ours will have something that's happening and they have absolutely no idea what to do? So maybe they stub their toe and they think, oh my gosh, I've got to go to the emergency room. Or they're having a heart attack and they're like, well, I'll just call my doctor and make an appointment for next week.
Yeah.
Right. So it's talking about having the ability to really understand what's going on and how to appropriately respond to the situation.
Right.
And also when you're at your doctor's appointment, to be able to interpret and intake and understand what's being told to you about the condition that you have and be able to appropriately respond to that.
Oh, classic example of what you just said is if somebody stubs their toe, it's not going to be a big deal for somebody that's healthy. But let's say they have diabetes or they have some kind of circulation problem, and that could cause a whole new set of problems.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And be absolutely detrimental. And they do say that low health literacy is also very costly. And why is that? Is because when people don't understand health information and instructions, they're more likely to have worse health outcomes and unnecessarily use emergency room services.
It's true. And we see that a lot.
Always. Yeah.
You know, it's almost like a panic button, right? Something's going wrong. I don't really know. I don't understand. I'm going to go to the emergency room because that's going to take care of it. And oftentimes that's not the appropriate place to go. And again, when it comes to the cost of things, we all know that an emergency room visit is way more costly than if you just go see your primary care or maybe go to an urgent care walk-in type scenario.
Yeah.
So basically, experts agree that health literacy is vital to reducing the healthcare costs and improving public health. But it's not necessarily always super straightforward. So I guess the most basic reason for this is that sick people by definition they're just not performing at their best, right? So we're asking them to be performing at a very high level in terms of intaking information and being able to make good decisions, on the output. But they're probably not in great shape if they're having some type of an issue.
Oh yeah. No, that's where you want to have someone with you. If they're giving you any kind of a medication that's going to make you loopy or tired or any of that, you're not going to remember what they say.
Well, and think about, when you're sick or you're in pain, you know what? I would give anything to make my back stop hurting. So the doctor prescribed me, whatever this medication is, and I'm supposed to take one every 8 hours. I'm going to take two because I'm in a lot of pain. And so, you know what I'm saying? It's just little things like that where when you're not at your best, it can easily get away from you.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah. No, not good.
Yeah. Even someone who normally has a high level of health literacy may struggle at times to understand and process health information. Again, when you're super sick, when you're in a high amount of pain, you may not always make the best decisions.
Right.
So having somebody, as an advocate for you is crucial.
Right. Right. And that's not just talking to the doctor, but that's also when you're talking with your pharmacy or anybody that's giving you any kind of advice on that issue that you're dealing with.
Right. And I'm not sure if you know, maybe you probably do know this at this point, but there's actually a national action plan to improve health literacy. And they recommend that healthcare professionals use a universal precautions approach. And this approach assumes that all patients have a limited understanding of the procedures and information, requiring professionals to provide clear explanations and instructions using simplified language and possibly videos.
Yeah. Haven't you ever sat there and somebody, when I worked at the hospital, there's a whole nother language that's spoken there. And a lot of the words are this long.
Yes.
And basically, have you ever talked to somebody or listened to somebody talk to you and then you say, okay, now can you speak English?
Yes. Yes.
Or can you now bring that down to layman's terms?
Yes.
And then they have to snap out of it and realize that you had no idea that bone that you broke was the tibia, and where is that?
Right.
And,
Well, and I think that it can be overwhelming and intimidating when a medical professional is saying all of these things to you. And so you almost get in that, like, you're just like, okay, yes, I understand. And maybe you have no idea, but
guaranteed.
It's really important that you take the time to say, hey, time out. I don't 100% understand what you're saying to me. Could you repeat that to me? And one thing that they actually do recommend is that when you go to a doctor's appointment, doctor gives you information, it inputs, and then you repeat it back so that you make sure that the complete circle is being made and that the understanding
That's
is
how
clear.
I am. That's exactly how I am. So the example is when Callie twisted her ankle so bad. And we got x-rays and this, that, and the other. And so I said, so what you're telling us is this.
Yes.
And I said, and I have to say this so that you know that I understand. And I mean, I literally said that to the doctor. But then again, I am that person that's like, no, you're going to take that whole amount of time with me and you're going to help me understand this because I'm not leaving until I do.
We had an episode on doctor's visits and making sure to take your time.
Yeah.
And it can be overwhelming. And I mean, I think it can be a little bit scary to be a little straightforward with your doctor if you don't understand because, we're just conditioned, I think, to just listen and agree. And, but it's super, super important that if you don't understand or you're not sure, ask questions and keep asking questions until you fully understand. And if you maybe don't agree or feel like you're getting the best information, it's okay to get a second opinion.
Oh, for sure. I actually highly recommend that for the big stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
That, and then also if the doctor seems like he's in a hurry or she's in a hurry, what you have to do is then when the nurse comes in to discharge you, stop them.
Yeah.
You've got more than one opportunity while you're there. If it's easier for you to talk to the nurse or, when you get to the receptionist, say, I need to ask another question. You're there for a reason and you're important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Things that people can do to be prepared going into appointments is write down questions that you have, concerns that you have, keep records. Like I always tell my girls, like if something is going on with them that's out of the ordinary, so I'll be like, okay, well, start writing things down so you can try to figure out what's different, right?
Yep.
So take all that information, gather all of that, because truly and honestly, I would think, I'm not a physician, but I would think that the more information they have to help you figure out what's going on and the more accurate information they have, the better it is for everybody.
Yeah, I did that with Callie when she was having her stomach stuff. I would say, okay, she tried to eat this at this time. This was her response.
Yes.
She either was heaving it back up or whatever, and then the next time we ate, this is what happened. But I quickly realized I had to establish a pattern to try to figure out, is it just when she drinks milk, does she have a milk intolerance or what is it?
Yes.
But it was really one of those things that I was able to know that I had to document because I also wasn't going to remember.
Yes. The other thing is when you do go to those appointments, take notes.
Yep.
Take notes, write things down. Again, ask, reiterate what you think the doctor said to you so you make sure that you are understanding correctly. Speak up if you're not following what they are saying to you. As Julie mentioned, you have multiple opportunities not just the doctor if you feel like you are not getting your questions answered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can also bring somebody with you.
Yeah.
And not everybody has somebody to take with them, but
Right.
if you do, it's not bad to have a second set of eyes and ears, I guess. And, I know when I go to appointments with either my kids or my mom or grandma, I definitely ask questions and reiterate. And sometimes I'll think of things that maybe they hadn't thought of.
Oh, for sure. Because of the things that you've seen in your life with this agency, you're totally going to think of different things. I have an uncle he's very hard-headed, and he won't let my aunt go to appointments with him.
Oh.
And then when he gets home, he will not tell her the whole story. And she'll, kind of try to joke it off, but it actually is very serious. And I said, you got to have a serious talk with him, because he's got stuff going on that you're not, in terms of her health literacy for him, it was almost zip. And then when he ends up in the hospital, they're all shocked and appalled.
Right.
But that's how he's dealing.
Yeah.
So there's emotional stuff going on there, but it's just really interesting that even within your own family, how we each want to deal with it is so different.
Very individual.
But I think that what he's doing is dangerous, not just for himself,
right?
But what if he goes down and she doesn't know
what's going on or how to appropriately respond. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend going about it that way.
I know, but that's what he's chosen.
Yep.
And so you accept it then.
Yep.
And then
you
not.
just do the best you can with what you have.
Yeah.
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 So did you know that we are either incredibly early or incredibly late to Health Literacy Month?
Did you know that there was a Health Literacy Month?
I did not. I do now.
Yes. This has actually been going on for like 20 years.
How did we know so much? How did we just find this out?
I just love the term. And then when you Google it, it's like, what? This is really a thing.
We were very illiterate on health literacy, I guess.
Not now.
Anyway, now that you all know about health literacy, and possibly you did before this, but the Health Literacy Month is October.
Yeah, I mean the whole month.
The whole month.
The 1st through the 31st.
Yep.
And there is all kinds of agencies and organizations that are working on this, which that's great. Somebody needs to get out there and tell people you need to know your stuff. For sure. Yeah. And don't always freelance it on the web, because I'll tell you what, I think that's one of the biggest problems that a physician faces is when somebody self-diagnose themselves.
Oh, yes. Yes. Did you actually know that according to the latest data, only 12% of adults in the United States have proficient health literacy skills? 12%.
Oh, my goodness.
So that means 9 out of 10 individuals in the U.S. are not sufficiently equipped to translate health information into appropriate health decisions. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then basically what I guess the outcome of that, this influences people's health outcomes by lowering the usage of preventative measures. You're really good about doing preventative. Mm-hmm. I'm not so good, but that's because I'm super young, so I don't have to do a lot of those things yet. Higher rates of hospitalization and utilization of emergency services, which, I mean, we see that kind of frequently. I would say a lot of what we do for people, or at least some of the people that we care for, is just try to maintain that consistency in the home so that they do not overutilize ER services or calling the ambulance. Decreased ability to effectively manage long-term and chronic illnesses, right? If you don't know, you don't know, I guess.
Right.
And then basically it just has negative psychological effects. I mean, it can be even a sense of shame if you don't feel like you have a good grasp of your own health.
Yeah. This is not a situation where you can fake it till you make it.
No, no. There are a lot of those. This is not one of them.
I'll tell you another thing in my my short time and in the emergency room, and I'm not a nurse or any of that. I was actually worked for the physicians, and I was a liaison very often for the patients, the nurses, the doctors. You know, if there was a trauma, I would get in the middle of stuff. So I saw a lot of stuff. And one of the things that they did say is very often the men are worse than the women in taking care of themselves. There, one time there was a younger man. He, when he was his late 40s, but when he came in, he was so messed up with things that could have been taken care of, and he did not walk out. But he had one thing that caused the second thing, that caused the third thing, that caused the fourth thing, and then he crashed. Yeah. And it was one of those things that if they'd gotten on the first thing, but I remember his wife going, he wouldn't go to the doctor. And so women tend to be more in tuned and willing to go.
Right.
So
I think men are just tougher. They're just going to tough it out and it'll go away. And
there are women like that. Yeah. But for the majority, I think it's more of the men are in more denial.
Yeah. Yep. Or like, I'll get better. I don't need to worry about it. It's only been happening for the last year. I'll go in a year.
Right. Yeah.
If it's still bothering me, I'll go then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, anyway, I think that it is super important to understand what health literacy is and do what you can to just be informed. And if you notice people around you, friends, family members, neighbors, church members, that you feel like maybe are suffering and you have the ability to be able to help them, I say do it.
Yeah. Well, start with yourself.
Yeah.
Start with yourself. Be in tune with yourself. If you have something going on, just get it figured out, and then you're able, they always say, fill your cup first.
Yes. Yep.
And so fill your cup, and then you're able to then help others with their cups.
Yep.
Whatever that cup is.
Whatever it is. All right. Is it wine today? It's been a day.
I think so.
I just can't do the wine. It just gives me a headache just immediately.
No wine for you.
No wine for me. Extra water.
Okay. Oh, that's
boring.
Goodness.
I know. They say it helps with Alzheimer's and dementia.
To have wine?
Prevention. No, to water. Lots of water.
Oh, sorry. I was still back on the wine.
I think it's everything is just have lots of water. It's good for everything.
Yeah. Hydrate.
Yep, for sure. Okay, so Julie.
Yes.
Do you remember when our dear friend Cody was here and on our diabetes episode, and she was telling us the grandma saying that was good Lord willing and the creek don't rise?
Right.
Yes. Okay. So you actually came across this. It was an article talking about what does that actually mean. And I had been pondering it after Cody said it.
Yes.
And I thought I knew what it meant, but it turns out there are potentially two different interpretations.
I was blown away.
Yeah.
I am so far off the right process because I was looking at it logically.
Yeah. So basically, if the good Lord's willing and the water doesn't rise, then we'll get it done.
Right.
Well, this article actually talks about the Creek Indians.
Yeah.
And that it's if the good Lord's willing and the Creek Indians don't rise up to in defense of, I guess, then you'll be able to get something done. And so it's really interesting because some people say absolutely it has to do with the water, and others people say absolutely it does not have to do with the water.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was interesting.
I thought that was so cool. Just because one thing that you assume you know something, and there was definitely two different
versions I think.
Of it. Yeah.
And really we'll never know.
Nope.
We'll never ever know. Because this goes back a long time. I mean, what is it, like 1800s?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1800s, I think, is when this, where it originated.
Yeah.
So
that was
if anyone
cool.
out there knows or has a thought, I would love to know.
We would love to.
All right. Well, send us your good news stories. Send us your verses, any grandma sayings. You can do that. Email to thecaregivenpodcast@gmail.com. And please make sure that you go out and subscribe. Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube. Leave us a review on our Care and Share group. Or join the Care and Share group, I should say. And I think that wraps it up.
I think that was really good.
Yeah.
I think, once again, something that we just take for granted, really, we need to be more aware.
Absolutely. Education.
Education.
Knowledge is power.
Always.
Always.
Yes.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.
Have a good day.